Hi, my name is Shawn. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. Welcome to Avatar The Last Podcasters. This week we're reviewing another episode, another live action Netflix episode. But before we do that, Chris, it's been a couple weeks. How are you? How you been? What have you been up to? I heard you say you were
Hmm.
painting. What are you painting?
Oh, I was drawing, just
Oh, I'm sorry.
practicing drawing different angles of kitsune. That way I can just like like so I got a front angle, a kind of a 3/4 angle, and then like a profile angle, and then I probably would need a top angle maybe or above or below. That way I can just reuse them every single time and
Is that
not.
the is that the first time you said the name out loud on the podcast?
I don't think so.
Huh?
Nah.
I just don't remember. I'm not trying to be dramatic.
I did a first look at at a couple episodes ago. Did a first look, a brief little teaser
That's
of
right, you did.
Kitsune.
Uh, Chris, I had a very busy week. I made a YouTube video for the first time in like 2 years, like an intentionally edited one, and I remembered the editing. I'm not good at it and takes me forever, but that was fun. I watched all of One Piece on Netflix, the live action, not
Yeah,
all of right. 8 episodes, not
in
800.
2 weeks you've watched all of One Piece.
All of it. I won. I beat the system. And so that was entertaining, and it's my first real exposure to One Piece. In the anime, I've only ever made it through, I don't know, maybe 5 episodes of the anime at any one point. So, first real exposure to One Piece. And also Memorial Day, and so Heather's parents visit, and so we kind of did a belated spring cleaning of sorts, which is awful and terrible, but at least it's done. It's a very full and slightly annoying for the cleaning parts week.
Sorry.
No, I'm glad you made a noise for the audio people
It
so
made,
they could, audio only listeners
it made it
could.
seem like I was bored by your story. It's just I yawned like 5 times before we got on.
Man, we both
Oh,
have yawned multiple times since we've been on the phone here. We've both yawned multiple times, but that's all right.
I
That's all right.
did see I saw the latest Planet of the Apes movie today.
Oh,
I
how
hate
was
those
that?
titles.
Oh yeah, they
Kingdom
are
of
kind
the
of dumb.
Planet of the Apes. Like, come on, guys.
It's not a
You could just call
very
it Planet of the Apes Kingdom, not Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Like of the if you gotta use of the twice in the title, you're doing too much.
you're making
Um,
us work too hard. Also, yeah.
yeah. I liked it. I actually liked it a lot. I just felt like going to go see a movie. I don't know what was the last movie I saw, but it's been far too long since I've seen a movie. I was Barbie the last or Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer last. I don't know, but it was good. I liked it a lot. It gives me a little more confidence. This is the same director who will be directing the Legend of Zelda movie.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
if you could
that.
make
That's cool.
me, yeah, yeah, and if you could make me care about CGI apes, you could probably make me care about a character I already care about, or I have. I think I'll be pretty flexible with Link, unless they make him like jokey.
I don't think they will, but listen, I don't know. I would say he should be like prime movie material because you could just make a brand new story if you wanted. It'd be almost totally your own as long as the setting and the character names feel right. I I don't know. He seems like an easy property that should work in movies, but we say the same thing about Avatar being an easy property for games all the time
Yeah,
too, and look what that gets us.
I mean the issue comes with like dialogue for Link.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
That's
how much dialogue do
unnatural.
you give? I guess you can make him. What's a character? What's the main character in the film that has very little dialogue? I'm trying to think of
John
one.
Krasinski in The Quiet Place.
I do want to see the. I kind of want to see the new one coming out here soon. It's called Quiet Place. day one. I think it's about
Oh,
like right when it kind of tied. And the trailer looked pretty cool for that.
it's not my. I don't really do horror movies. I like stupid horror movies, right? Like campy '80s slashers and garbage. I like garbage, but not real horror movies. I don't do those so well, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll be good. John, those movies have both been successful, I think. And Chris, did you watch the Mavericks Timberwolves game yet, or you got that on the
Uh,
DVR?
well, that's what I was telling you. Why I hate that stupid call, and it happened once or twice in the last 4 minutes of that game.
So
But
you
yes, I did
saw the
watch.
final? Okay,
Yeah,
I did not watch it. I'm just now seeing the final, and wow, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I thought,
yeah. So that happened. Yeah, that happened in that game. I mean, they were up 18 at one point. The Wolves were up 18, and when you have Luca and Kyrie, they work really well together. They also work well to where one of them are on the floor at all times, and this just shows us how much better Kyrie Irving than Jamal Murray. I guess like
yeah,
Kyrie Irving is like far more unguardable than Jamal Murray is,
Kyrie
but
and Luca are maybe the two best shot creators in their own ways in the game.
yeah,
It's kind of wild.
Lakers could have had Kyrie probably.
You know, at one
Then
point,
again, then
at
again,
one
it
point,
was a gamble. It was a gamble.
it was at one point during like peak COVID. You and I were talking about Kyrie more like baggage than an asset,
Yeah,
and so it was a gamble. But hey,
yeah,
props. I would say props to the Mavericks for playing well above average defense, despite the amount of time that Kyrie and Luca spend on the floor together. You're talking
yeah.
about an average defender and a bad defender, both starring on a very good defensive team somehow. Don't know how that works. That's good coaching, maybe. I'm not sure, or just great supporting cast. But anyway, I thought this was the Wolves' year after they got past the Nuggets. I was like, hey, this is their
Yeah, it
time.
still might be their year. I
Still
could
could.
easily see that this series still being tied 2-2, going back to the Wolves, but it's just a matter of closing out games.
Yeah.
Um, and not Ant, yeah, Ant Man made some mistakes at the end there. He should have just been aggressive, kept attacking. He had maybe two turnovers in the last 4 minutes or so, 2 minutes or so, costly turnovers. Um, yeah, but he's still young. He's 22. It's
He
freaking
is,
weird.
man. He's been in the
That
league
is
for like
dumb.
3 years, 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
Like this is the end of his third year, and he's 22 years old. That's wild. But no, I thought this would be their year. I think they
That could
match it.
be my son.
He
No, I'm kidding. I'm not joking.
well, I mean, if you were real feisty, no, he probably couldn't be your son. Biologically,
No.
it would be close. But anyway,
14? I mean, never mind. We're getting into
yeah,
it.
that's too strong. That's too strong. Chris, let's review an episode.
Avatar.
Yeah, let's review an episode of Avatar: The Last Podcasters. We're on episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Pardon me, the live action Netflix variant. So far, we've had differing, but what do I say? Differing, but like parallel opinions, right? Like they've been set a little apart, but pretty reflective relative to themselves. I don't know how to word that, but and we're on episode 3, and it was Omashu. Would you care to give us a summary of episode 3, Omashu?
All right. We start off with a little bit of a cold open. These Fire Nation group of people who what's the word I'm looking for? Not protesters, resistance. Resistance.
Resistance,
That's
there
what
you
I'm looking
go.
for.
Sorry, we're not real
Fire
big
Nation.
Star Wars people, or we would have known that.
There's a certain Fire Nation group within the Fire Nation who are part of the resistance against the royal family, against the Fire Lord, and I actually like that story element to it. Like it wasn't in the original show. Like
Mm-hmm.
Fire Nation people were kind of just like, "Hey, cool, whatever." Like
We're
they
not
didn't.
getting hurt.
Yeah. Um. but I think it's realistic. Like, yeah, there'll be some resistance there, and they have. I don't know if you noticed, but the guy talking, he's actually part of the White Lotus. Like when he's introducing the young Fire Nation girl who works in the palace, who is obviously Azula. Um, he has a White Lotus tattoo on his
Oh,
palm
I
there.
didn't notice that. And also, so the first time we watched it, it's like my brain knew something was up. But like I didn't like it was well enough disguised. I wasn't immediately like, oh, that's Azula. It took me,
Oh yeah.
it took me a minute or two on our first watch through. So it had the
Well, that's
desired,
good. It's
it
like,
had the desired effect.
oh, good. Well, because I knew I've been, I'm just very familiar with the cast even at that point. So I saw her. I was like, oh yeah, that's Azula. They're like, all right, today's the day we kill Fire Lord Ozai. Like that is a how? I mean, it's a dumb plan. Uh, it would
That's
have been dumb
that's your
even
go-to
if
move is kill fire.
it would have been a dumb plan even if you weren't even if you really had a mole inside and stuff. Um, let's see, where am I? Is this thing? Oh, there we go. Okay. Then they get caught. Philo Ozai is like, all right, whatever, and he kills them. Um,
Not until he has given them way more information than any real bad guy would ever reveal to a group of people.
yeah, it is interesting though, and I've talked about this before. There's a scene here where he's like, "Don't speak to me about laws," and I'm curious what they're gonna do with that.
Yeah,
Um, I hope
yeah.
they
I think he's
don't.
gonna have like loved his wife, and she's gonna have left. I can't think of her name all of a sudden.
Ursa.
Ursa. Like it was an arranged marriage. He was really into it. She wasn't. It's gonna be something like that, or she's dead. One or the other.
I mean, she's definitely dead, but like Ozai didn't care that she was dead, and he didn't love her in the original series. I'm. It depends what they do, but I'm fine with
Hmm?
changes.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
Anyway, they get
he gives them an
killed.
obscene amount of information, and that's a problem that I have. I know he's gonna kill
I
him, but
mean,
like nobody would
yeah.
spend that time being like, "Here's my plan before I kill you."
I mean, he's a villain. He's gonna monologue.
Ugh.
Ooh, you got me
You got me
monologuing. It's a
monologuing,
cliche.
and
I
you
need to watch
got
Incredibles.
busy. That's a good
That
movie.
was so. Whoa, 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 whoa! Matching uniforms. Elastigirl. Hey,
Oh,
you got busy.
it's a captivating villain. Great movie. Great movie. The
It's a
best
great movie. Yeah.
the best part about that movie is when Bob's getting reprimanded by his wife and he's like, or by his boss, sorry. He's like, I'm not happy, Bob. Ask me why. Why? Be specific, Bob. Why are you not happy? So dumb. Oh, I love it. Let's hope we don't cover him. Anyway, watch Incredibles. That's a
Yeah.
great movie. Go ahead.
Um. Yes. Okay. Anyway, after he kills the resistance, Azula's like, "Can you believe him?" Like he was like, "The Avatar has returned," and then Ozai's like, "Zuko's done the impossible. He's found the Avatar." And of course, that gets in Azula's head. She gets all insecure about it and whatnot. Then we go to our group. Aang sees go to Team Avatar. Aang sees an Airbender who he thinks is an Airbender, and he follows him to Omashu, and then they meet. Why they keep doing this thing in this episode where they introduce well they only do it twice, but it's where they introduce someone and you're like, oh, that person seems notable, more notable than they should actually seem, and they later are someone very very notable.
We're spending too much time on this person for it to be just a passerby.
Yeah, that's like when season 3 of Korra did Kuvira. It's like, why did you? Why was she like, I'm Kuvira? It was like,
Yeah,
is
a
she
whole
gonna come back?
like a chronologically several episodes ahead though. That's a mean drop. I dig that. Always like that.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, get introduced to Jet. There's some little banter, little yeah, flirtation between Jet and Katara. Well, actually, I think really just Jet on Katara. Yeah, the flirtation isn't, I think, two way. Eventually, I think it becomes kind of a two-way thing. Anyway,
Yeah, it's not immediate.
so yeah, they get into Omashu. Aang finds the air nomad, and then there's an explosion. Apparently, there are spies in the Earth Kingdom on behalf of the Fire Nation that wreaks chaos and destruction. In doing so, they do some freaking bombs, which is honestly, I love this idea that like there's freaking spies on both sides. In episode one, we see there's a Earth Kingdom spy in the Fire Nation. In this episode, we see Fire Nation spies in the Earth Kingdom. Espionage is a real thing that happened all the time and still happens to this day.
Important part of any good war media.
Yeah, I could be a spy. I could be a spy.
Could you be a spy, Chris? You're pretty honest. I'm not saying you would like dumb and you would give yourself up. You're generally an honest guy. I feel like it'd be a challenge for you.
I am not a good liar, and I am far too. But I think I could.
That's not a
I think I
bad
could,
thing.
if something was a game, like playing like Big Brother, I
Okay.
think I could play Big Brother pretty well. But yeah, if it was just like, because in my head you just kind of compartmentalize it, like, oh, this is a game. Like,
Yeah, but if you're
but
like
a spy, that's
real people and real problems, and like if the war, how do I word this nicely? So if the war was like somehow empathetic on both sides, like you run into people on the other side, you're like,
uh, yeah,
crap, these are real humans that I'm affecting. I feel like
yeah,
I would not be very good at that job. All right, Chris, we want you to
yeah.
assassinate this person. Like, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, Chris the assassin. Yeah, I don't know if I could. Not sure I could be an assassin. No, I
They'd
can't.
have to
No.
start it first. I wouldn't have the heart to blindside
Yeah.
anybody.
Anyway, so there's a bomb that goes off. We meet Teo, which I always forget his name. Um, and then Teo is the son of the Mechanist. We meet Danny Pudi as the Mechanist. Although he actually has a name, and it's Sai, which
Sigh.
is I kind of just wish they just called him the Mechanist and just
Me
because it's
too. Sai gives me Final Fantasy vibes.
hmm.
That guy's name's
Sai gives
Sai.
me Naruto vibes. There's a guy named Sai.
Hmm.
I don't know. My name is Sai, but I can't not like Danny Pudi.
No,
He's
I'm so naturally drawn to him as an actor.
yeah. And it's funny. People are like, how can he play someone's dad? I'm like, Danny Pudi is like my. He's not. He's old. He's way not way old. He's like 4 years older than me. He's pushing
Yeah,
40 at least.
and
And
Community's
it's
not
like,
recent.
yeah. And I have an 11 going on 12-year-old that I had at 22, which is fairly normal.
Yeah.
Um, and so so it's not that the question that
No.
someone like Danny could be uh, could have a son that old. But so then they're like, hey, we gotta find out. Aang is like, we gotta find out who's doing these bombs and stuff. So and Aang and Teo go off and go and search for the people who's doing the bombs. Meanwhile, Sokka and Sai are like working on the Mechanist stuff, which is I like those moments with. I really like those moments between Sokka and the Mechanist. Like they had them in the original show. Let's just explore upon a little more here. Like and speaks about Danny Pudi has a really good line delivery of like about like your gifts that you're given with, like embrace them and stuff. Like there's so many fighters in the world, but like the world needs more engineers. Like I just think it's just a really good sentiment of like there's so much of this in the world, and you are naturally this. we need more of this, be this. But
It's
it's a nice little sentiment.
they have way more time to develop it here, and they do so to what I would say is pretty good effect.
Yeah, and also it's about that is part of Sokka's character development of like, which again, Sokka's whole character arc isn't he was said to that was a couple episodes. His character arc is more so like him dealing with what he at first thinks defines would define him as a man. And he thinks that's being a warrior, that's being a leader, that's being this and this kind of stereotypical macho man stuff. And he deals with that here. Like he's like, oh well, my dad doesn't really think too much about this, which I don't like, by the way, because his dad in the I get the purpose for the change because his dad in the original show was like almost just as much of a genius as Sokka was. Um,
That
anyway,
clicked better with my brain, but there's nothing explicitly wrong with the way it's presented here.
yeah,
I will say I went back and Heather and I watched, while we have this few months of Netflix and it's convenient, we watched the first few episodes of Avatar, and I'll start watching through it again, animated. And, like, I miss the growth away from sexist Sokka because it's so prevalent in the first 3 episodes. Like, it's a big part of those 3 episodes, but then it's gone, right? So, just
yeah,
proportionately speaking, it still just isn't that big a deal. But if I cared, if I cared 20% before and I watched it again now, I maybe care 22% or something like that. Very small.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Would I like to have it? Sure.
Yeah, let him
Is it
grow
a
from
big
it.
deal to me? No, not at
Nah.
all.
So I tried to
Mm.
change my stance or to see if it did, and it not really, not really.
Yeah, I I would have liked it not for the sake of Sokka's character arc, but for just for the sake of showing a person can have a flawed idea, and that person realizes, oh, that thinking is really really dumb. Okay, I'll change like that.
And Sokka's a
'Cause
good medium for that kind of for that kind of story, for that kind of narrative structure. I don't know,
mm,
like he's impressionable. He's trying to fit in mold A, but really he's mold B. He would be a good way to pass that story, but it's just it's not that big a deal. Still, like I said,
yeah,
I tried to see both sides, and I shifted the teeniest tiniest bit at most.
yep. Let's see. On the, I'll just stick with the plot, with the main plot here, because there's kind of like there's kind of like 4 plots going on in this
That's
episode.
the beauty part of this episode. It intertwines a bunch of animated episodes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so Aang goes, oh, Qatar goes off a jet, and they intercept a Fire Nation spy, which is a pretty cool fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
We see Jet using the, don't know what you call the hook swords. He actually does like the same move that he does in the cartoon, like almost frame for frame. It's like the same exact move. It's really cool. And then you get to meet more of the Freedom Fighters, which they all look really freaking dope. Um,
They do.
and they,
I love how they look.
yeah, I always need more. Oh my gosh,
In
long
a
shot.
in a way,
Always do.
yeah, they underuse Longshot. Really bad. They underuse Longshot. In a way, Pipsqueak is the worst looking, but just in the sense of that the forced perspective isn't done very well. Like it just like, hey, let's put the camera down low and
Well,
point it
I
up.
when I first saw that, I thought it was a CGI character. Like they just got a kind of not a fat, just a
He's a
chubbier
big
kid,
kid. Yeah.
and they just put it was weird.
Just put the camera low
But
and
then
aim
that
high. That's it, man.
yeah, but then that scene with him, that's frame. I was like, okay, that wasn't CGI. It was just
Yeah.
weirdly
It's
shot.
and like I said, that's a nitpick. He's the only one that I thought from. I was like, you know what, that part could. But I love how the rest of them look. They definitely need to use long shot more. Like you got a sniper on your team here. Let's employ this
Yeah,
all the time.
and he looks so much like. And I do really like Jet. Like, I've always liked Jet, and I like him here as well. Like he's charismatic. His character design looks it's ripped. It's a live action version ripped from the cartoon, like the raggedy hair and stuff. He has a little bit of charisma. He doesn't have as much anger. Probably not as much anger as Jet had. He's a little bit more. I don't know, calmer. But either way, I really like Jet.
I prefer. I think I prefer live action Jet. I think they found a
Well, I
good.
knew you
Yeah, I
because
think
you
they
have
found a
some
good
weird
actor
vendetta.
because animated Jet sucks, and this Jet is. I miss the anger part, like when he's teaching Katara essentially where bending comes from instead of from a place of anger.
Yes.
That still feels a little wrong to me, but I don't know how it can, like, narratively it feels more wrong, but character wise it makes me not hate Jet as much that he's like, hey, he's a strategic revolutionary, not just an angry child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes him
Yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting difference that I haven't thought of. This Jet probably is far more of a revolutionist than the other. Like the other Jet was the cartoon Jet is like we're just scraping by. Like I just go mission to mission, and we
yeah.
just take out Fire Nation heads whenever we see them.
It's kind
This
of
Jet is
like
like I have a goal in mind.
in D&D, it's like chaotic neutral Jet animated just getting by doing what he can, and if he sees a Fire Nation guy, like, all right, I'll shoot that guy. But this Jet, like, just has this Jet feels more believable to me, even if I do miss that his teaching Katara would have come more from like a place of emotion or whatever. But
And it's interesting because he talks about war a lot. Like he feels like he is at war all the time. While Cartoon Jet felt like I said before, I take out this camp, I take out this camp. Like it's not war, it's kind of just being a nuisance to the Fire
yeah,
Nation.
and it just seems more juvenile. But Chris, I do have one very serious. It'll be a small thing to you, but it bugged the shit out of me. When he swings and he bats the fire away and that makes a noise as if there's a physical substance inside of the fireball, that bugged me so bad. He
The
batted it
thing
away like a
is that
softball, Chris.
it. I am 99.9% confident that's also how it is in the cartoon because it's like
He does.
I know
They bat it away, or they cut. Sometimes they'll cut it in half, and it'll have like a physical, what's it, like, palpableness to it.
like a
That
fireball that he hits away rather
Yeah,
than a
but in both. Sorry,
flame.
I'm not critiquing the live action specifically. I'm critiquing what I hate about all Jet, as like that's not how that would. If you slice your sword through fire coming at you, it wouldn't go a different direction. That's not how that would work, and it's a stupid idea, and I hate it in both sides.
Oh,
A fan, maybe. A sword where you're slicing through it, no, absolutely not.
I feel like they had this. I want to say both shows do that.
I believe they do. I believe
But
they do.
you still have the issue regardless.
Right, this is a pervasive, stupid
Yeah. But
Jet
then
issue.
there's a difference. Like firebenders can sometimes throw a fireball, which seems more tangible than throwing a flame. Maybe it's not. That doesn't make sense because fire doesn't become more tangible because it's a fireball. But in
But
my head, a ball is more tangible. But also, like, it doesn't make sense.
where I
A ball
completely,
of fire
well,
still.
it doesn't make sense at all. Like, the more you think about it, the more it's like, well, that's why bending doesn't exist. But Chris, if
Yeah.
the where you're coming from and what I do agree with is that in order to shoot a flaming projectile that wasn't just flame growing along a stream of air or a fluid of some type, like it would have to be some kind of like palpable physical thing that they'd have to be throwing for it to stay in one place while being fired, if that makes sense. Like staying around a locus while being. It would have to be
Yeah,
a solid
yeah,
substance,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I still don't like it.
Fire is a weird. You know what? Honestly, I don't blame M Night Shyamalan for being like, I think I want to make the firebenders have to bend fire. Like there has to be a fire present in the bend. I don't blame him for making that decision because fire is freaking weird.
It is.
It's weird in the real world and
Because
it's
it's not its
weird
own
in the
substance.
show.
The other benders are bending a physical thing that like exists independently, and fire
Yeah,
doesn't. Fire is
yeah. And also fire like needs to burn something
yeah, it's completely
to
codependent to exist.
yeah.
But water is just
But,
water. It just is its own element.
yeah.
So you can just throw a molecule of water and that makes sense, but you can't throw a molecule of fire. You can throw a
Like
molecule that's
like
on
if you
fire.
throw a a a swab of cotton, put that on fire, throw that,
Yeah.
it would keep burning. Like if I had a if I had a cotton ball, I had a fire retardant glove or something, put it on fire, throw the cotton ball, it would keep burning as it
Yes.
fell. But if I had just fire in my hand, which I can't
You would
even do
it would have
that,
to be shooting a fluid essentially that was on fire, like squirting gasoline into a fire or whatever, or
yeah.
like what not. Well, don't do that. Kid. What's
You
it
know
called?
what's interesting
Lighter fluid.
is and I know we're getting way off track, but I
No, this is
love these
fun. I
conversations.
love it.
I think I'm thinking a lot about this also with the main villain and possibly the main villain in the Avatar Kids Say story. um, like in My Hero Academia, there's a character named Kakchan who can't produce fire. Like there's another character named Endeavor who shoots fire and stuff, but Kakchan, his sweat is like nitroglycerin, I think they
I
call it.
believe that's what
Like
they say it is. Yeah.
it's his sweat that is igniting the fire. Like he has to use the sweat, and that's what ignites fire. So like
Don't they
that
literally
makes
describe it as like explosive sweat glands or something? Is the way
yeah,
the commentator.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Long story short, I don't. You know what, M Night. I get it. I would still say a happy medium might have been that they can't throw physical fireballs because they can't just manifest a physical something. But maybe their firebending works more like a flamethrower, like as a stream of fluid that
It's
you're.
just
And we don't get to know what fluid it is, but you're. Yeah, something like that.
yeah. I can't. There's no disconnection there. It's just
Yeah,
instead
you're.
of
It's emanating from. You're shooting energy that happens to be on fire or something.
yeah,
But I'm with you.
yeah.
I'll forgive M Night for the idea, not the execution.
Fire in general, fire is such a freaking weird thing because it's not a solid. We might have had this conversation. It's not a solid, and it's not a gas. Like it's not a solid, but you can touch it. It's not a gas. It's not definitely not a liquid. It's not even a plasma,
It's
which
just
is like the fourth thing. It's just it's its own freaking.
it's just a
It has
temperature,
no
basically. It's
yeah,
almost
and like it doesn't even cast. Wait, does it cast shadow? Or is that black fire that doesn't cast? Anyway, oh, I don't think fire can cast. Can I don't think you can see.
it
I
wouldn't
don't think
really cast a
no
shadow
fire can.
because it's creating its own light source that would be nearer
Yeah,
to the shadowed solid than whatever the next light. So it really can't cast a
but
shadow necessarily, but
fire is freaking weird.
it is.
It's
We don't know fire science. I'm gonna let it slide, except for the part where where Jet's just slicing them in half and they're splitting in different directions.
so- sometimes I think about story plot points. And I'm just like, and then every now and then I'll be like, oh, that doesn't make sense. And then I'll be like, who cares if it makes freaking sense? Like, as long as you make it make sense within the
Yeah,
story.
it's
I'm not trying to
fine.
be it. Like Avatar isn't. Sure, Avatar's a great balance of like physical things and magical things, but like
Relatable
sometimes it
magical
stretches.
ideas to real physical things that we know.
Yeah, but as long as you maintain the rules in the universe, stuff is fine.
It isn't that
Anyway,
bad, and Jet, in my opinion, here is an improvement over animation Jet.
I will say I do very much hate that he. I think this is bad writing as well. It's not this was bad writing; it just could have been better writing. I do hate that conversation with him, Guitar. He's like, think about the good things, Guitar. Like, have
Yeah,
that be your like. I would have liked if he was like, listen, you can use your anger to really drive your bending because it could, and maybe it helps Guitar at a certain point, and then Guitar's like, no, Jet, like that thinking. It would have been a better story point of her being like, that thing only gets you so far. It's narrow minded. Is this? Is that? Is this bad? You've forgotten the good in your own life, the good memories of your own parents and stuff. Um, I didn't like that.
that would have felt way better to me. It's not like you would have had to deliver it in like a stupid meat-headed way, like use anger, make more bend. You know, like, hey,
Yeah,
channel your anger and your frustration out through your bending, and it would sound very useful. And then what I liked in the animated series is that Zuko kind of got that chat later, and I always liked that it felt like Katara got it first. That was always, I don't know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
poignant to me, but not the direction they chose.
Yeah.
Just another situation of like they slightly nerfed a character in just a slightly undesirable way. Slight, small.
All right. Let's see what happens down this path. Aang figures out they reach a certain point where they find the blasting jelly for the explosions, and Aang is like, oh, he puts two and two together. On a side note, I'm going for tangent here. You know who Terrence Howard is, right? He's an actor.
Not off the top of my head. Let me Google it.
Okay, he was the Iron Man. He was the first War Machine, and then they replaced him.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay, he has these like wild scientific theories. But then, like, and I in my brain, I can't be like, well, that's dumb because I don't know enough about science. Like, he could say something and sound smart. Other scientists are like, that's really, really dumb. Uh, but he said one thing that's really, really, really dumb. It makes everything else he says. I'm like, whatever you say, I can't believe it. He's like, they lied to you, man. They try to tell you that one times one equals one. That don't make no sense, man. What's the point? The point of multiplication is to make more and one times one that doesn't make more. And it's like, well, one thing you're freaking dumb. That's not the point of multiplication. The point of multiplication is to count a group of things. It's not necessarily making more of it, just to count a group of things. Like, oh, I have one. I have I have one. I'm counting one group of one hand. One times one equals one. If I'm counting one group of two hands, one times two is two. Like it's anyway.
I'm not gonna rag on this guy that I don't really know. I'm just gonna say I just read a quick little article, and it sounds like a stereotype. Like if you had a stereotypical stoner movie, like two guys in their basement, and one of them is just like straight lines are an illusion. If you look at them from the side, you see they're not
Yeah,
straight.
yeah.
And that's
I guess I can go with like yeah, there's no such thing as a straight line. Like sure, if I get down to the very micro level of it, there's gonna be a curve somewhere. But like the point of a straight line for anyway, yeah.
it's a construct, man. But okay, I'm sure he's a
Like the world itself isn't perfect. There's
yeah.
nothing as a perfect circle, but the world itself. If I shrink the
We
world down,
we had
it
to
would look like
invent.
a perfect sphere. But
No, wait, Chris. There's a name. The shape of the world is called a geoid. We had to invent a shape to call the world because it's not a sphere. It's a geoid. That's yep. But listen, I'm sure
oh.
he's an entertaining guy. Not gonna. I don't know anything else about him either. So I'm sure, Chris. What was the connection between that?
Oh, because I said put two and two together, and that reminded me of the one times one equals two thing for him that he claims that one times one equals two, and it's just like
You got the wrong operator, brother. You-
Boy. Anyway, okay. Aang puts one and one together, makes two, and and he because he remembers from before meeting Jet that Jet had those same lap sacks, whatever you call them. Sacks. He's like, oh, Jet's doing it. He's only doing the bombings. Which is interesting because yeah, Jet was actually doing the bombings. Then Tara gets better at bending. Um, Katara meets back up with the gang. Katara and Saga have a fight about who's really. Oh, I forgot to mention that Jet and Katara found out that the Mechanist was a spy. So both Katara and Sokka have have different opinions on these two people. They don't trust the other one, which puts them at odds. It's a little bit like the Great Divide, like just a little bit like the Great Divide in
Hmm?
that sense. Like, hey, this is other group that there's the other side that Katara and Sokka disagree on.
The next episode has just a flair of that like manufactured Great Divide, like a
Yeah,
hair over the top manufactured disagreement, but and
yeah. And then we see Katara tries to Jet is like he has a plan. He's gonna kill the Earth King. By doing so, to do that, he's gonna kill the Mechanist, and he's also gonna kill tell you, he's gonna kill innocent people, like a bunch of innocent people. I think
yeah,
probably a bunch
just
more.
a
So
number of them.
I think if his goal was just to kill the Mechanist, I wouldn't be like Jet's evil. But if Jet was like, I'm just gonna kill the Mechanist, everyone else is fine. Because hey, I get it. He's making weapons for the Fire Nation.
Yeah,
You think if I get rid of him, Fire Nation has less weapons? But like, all right, you want to kill the Earth King?
we
Like,
don't have any, which you can't show us everything, but I don't love that there's not a great prerogative for killing Boomy. There's not, there's not a demonstrable like, yeah, Boomy's a bad king. It's like, no, he kept his city standing, for a really long war, and everybody seems kind of survive. So I don't know. There's not a great prerogative for going after Boomy in my mind, but I'm sure there's
yeah.
that's an easy one for my brain just to be like, oh well, there was plenty of things he could find. I'm sure that in his mind added up.
Yep. All right. So they try to kill the Mechanist. Katara. Before that, okay. Yeah. Wait.
Yeah,
What
before
was
that,
what happened?
essentially the fight.
Yes. Before that, this whole time, there's been like a C plot almost of
Yeah.
Zuko and Iroh, and it kind of just been. I feel like they really haven't done much. They kind of just been plotting, getting into Omashu, trying to figure out what's going on, and finally Zuko confronts Aang, and one of I think a very very cool fight.
Mm-hmm.
It is just textbook Aang versus Zuko fight, and I do love it. It's a really
It's
good fight.
yeah, it's got some like good choreography, but also like the fun campiness. Like it's hard to describe a fight as charming, but this fight made me feel a little bit like I feel
Mm,
when I'm watching the good animated version fights. Like there's some a little bit of goofiness to it that I really like. Because they're
yeah,
fighting in a
it
town and in between laundry lines and stuff.
that's true. I didn't really think about the goofiness of it. I probably felt it subconsciously.
That's
But
that's
you're right.
that
There's
sounds
like
like a negative connotation, but it's not. I don't. There might be a better word
yeah,
for it.
there's so much goofy stuff that happens and and fights in Avatar. And
Yeah.
that is part of the story. Like the most goofy thing is in the chase where it's Azula versus Zuko versus Aang, and they're all Aang and Azula are kind of chasing Aang. I'm sorry, Azula and Zuko are chasing Aang, and Aang goes into this like building, and he he runs in there on an air scooter. Um, then Azula walks in, but little do they know there's no floor. Aang is just floating on there, and then Azula's so smart and cunning, it doesn't throw her off, so she jumps to the side, and then Zuko just falls through. such good writing because it's so indicative of all of the three character dynamics.
it's it is this gives at least some of those vibes of like it's a fight,
Yeah,
but Aang is Aang.
yeah. Like Aang gets caught in the clothes and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Um, Also good just to see like we've mentioned this before that the there's there's more of a village aspect. There's more people around, and we
Uh,
definitely see that.
just having them make the choice of like no firebending so that he doesn't get caught, and you get the sense because like unnecessary casualties or whatever. Like he's not just trying to set the whole place on fire. That there's more weight on it that I like in a good way.
Yeah. But that fight ends with let's see, how does the fight end?
How does it
It's not
end?
really- I think it just keeps going until
It kind of
Aang. I think Aang gets
intertwines.
caught. I think the so at the same time happening, long shot is gonna shoot a fire arrow at the blasting jelly, kill the Magnus, kill the Earth King, Boomy, kill Teo, and the Katara stops it with her water bending just in time. And then I think that alerts the Earth Kingdom soldiers. Then the soldiers intervene in the fight between Aang and Zuko. Iroh steps in, tells Zuko to get away. And that's kind of how I think that fight ends.
Hmm?
And then Aang is captured. And that's how the episode ends.
Awesome. Uh, Chris, I haven't seen your ratings yet. I'll do audio visual first, and then
Yeah.
you can give me yours.
One thing, real quick.
Oh, sure. Go
Like I
ahead.
said before, there's other different plots happening. The other, like the D plot happening, was like the stuff with the Zula. We meet like I kind of thought at first that cold open with the Zula was going to be it, and then we see her with May and Ty Lee. And we kind of see her doing some conniving and stuff in the background, talking to Admiral Zhao. So that's kind of like the D plot.
Chris, you have, as I've watched through it, and I might have mentioned this already. I apologize to the viewing audience if I did. Chris, I think you've won me over. I'm not as crazy about this Azula as I was at the first watch through. What I'm realizing though is that I just like the way that Ozai treats his children more in this overall.
Mm,
First of all,
okay.
because there's more at all,
Yeah,
right? There's just more to
yeah.
go off of. But that feels more like crazy tyrant dad dynamic in a good way, and I like that part. But I don't necessarily like some of the Azula tweaks to her, like her confidence and need for approval and stuff. You've brought me over to the light side.
Or you can just like the cartoon Azula even more.
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay,
She's just too OP, man. Too OP.
she's very OP. That's
She,
part. I think that's part of charm.
I'll go first with my audio visual. Chris, I gave it an 8.5. Omashu is a great spectacle to look at. The fight scenes are a lot of fun. Even the kind of like I'm gonna call it like the heist, like Jet and the crew swapping out the blasting gel. There's just a lot of things that are fun and interesting. Visually, there's the audio visually. There's just a few too many. I mean, 8.5 is great in my opinion. There's some dead spots where you kind of do get stuck in one place with music and visuals, or noise, sound, and visuals for a while. But minor complaint. 8.5.
Mm. You know, audio visual. It's interesting. Speaking of music, I didn't really like a lot of the score in this. It's very. I wouldn't even call it. This is
It's very ambient.
a um. The music in this episode isn't great, but it's just going to be. Dang, I forgot our our rating system for issues. Not it's not an issue. What was
Oh
the lowest?
yeah. I take umbrage was real bad. I take exception. That was like the normal person way. Is take issue, take exception, take umbrage.
Oh, Nick. Pick. Nick. Pick. Nick.
Nitpick, yeah, nitpick's below issue, I believe.
Yeah, nitpick, issue,
Exception,
whatever. Yeah,
umbrage.
nitpick.
You
There
gotta
was
be
there was a fourth one in there somewhere.
you gotta be mad to
Um,
be umbrage.
but, but the music, I think it was nitpick. It was very in this like ambient background. It didn't feel like Avatar. It felt more like
A
Middle
generic
Eastern
Netflix.
music, I guess. That makes sense. Like I don't. Anyway, but that's a nitpick. Audio visual, I gave an 8.5. I think Omashu is, like I said, it's freaking beautiful. I'm not sure they could do. Omashu might be the best cinematography in the show. Like looking at like a landscape and stuff in the whole show.
The only thing I can
Probably.
think of that I might like better, and we should have that discussion when we come to it, is is what's the name of the water tribe kingdom, the big city? What's Ag
Agnaquila?
yeah, that one.
Agnaquila?
That's pretty good, but
Yeah.
in a similar way. But anyway,
Hmm.
that's a
Yeah. I
great
think they just
call.
did a really good job bringing the whole shoots and ladders stuff to life.
Yeah, they did.
The Aang and Zuko fight, also great. So that's in there. So yeah, so 8.5 on audio visual.
Story, I gave an 8. It has been my favorite story to date. I stand by all the
Oh, okay.
qualms. I stand by all the qualms that I
Um,
have.
that was one of the things,
Oh,
Sean.
so we had
It was
5.
nitpick. It was
Issue,
it was nitpick. No,
issue,
nitpick, issue,
qualm,
qualm, and
exception,
then take exception and
and
umbrage.
an umbrage. Yeah. I have issues. I don't even really have qualms with the story, but I have issues when it comes to, Jet's thing. I already forgot what we all talked about. Jet's things and in his motives, his chat with Katara. Uh, man, that's really it. Ozai Ozai's monologue is Ozai's, and a lot of the monologues in this show aren't good. A lot of their monologues are way too scripty. It just the whole
Mm-hmm.
show, and that happens. Um, but no, I really like this story. This is a great combination in one episode of multiple animated episodes that gives me a new and different reason to watch this show, and that it works. It works well. It's not different just to be different. They do a good adaptation.
Yeah, I gave story a 7.5.
We're really
Um,
close on this episode so far. Nice.
we are, yeah, I know. I don't have like any major issues with the story. I do. The story just doesn't. It didn't feel as impactful. I take issue with some of the Zuka, some of the Jet Katara stuff. Um, hmm. 7.5 might even be a little harsh, but I'm cool with 7.5. That's not, it's cool. Um, I do think they do a really good job uh, of putting in like three different story elements, and that'll
Mm-hmm.
probably going to play more so with my I don't know how I feel adaptability wise.
Does some small part of the story get brought down in our brains? Right? Because I'm saying I like this story, you're saying you like this story, but the scores are good. But some part of it's brought down by the, the king assassination. Just still feels like it's missing something. Like something got cut out of the episode. Like it feels out of the blue. It's like I'm gonna kill the Earth King. Like, wait a minute, what? Did he do something? Wait. There's something about that if
Yeah,
they connected one more dot, I think it would have hooked me even more. Like shed a negative perception of Boomy. But hey, you can only work with the time that you have. Last bit, the memorability, the X factor, whatever you want to call it. I gave it an 8, and again, it was mostly based on the fact that this is the first episode where it felt like I was getting a pretty drastically different experience. And on one hand, while there's a lot of plots that run together, that might be an issue or a nitpick. Overall, it's a pretty good experience.
memorability. I gave it a 7.5. What's pulling up mostly is probably the Aang and Zuko fight. And just Mashu.
Hmm? Chris, we're super. That's as close as I bet that's as close as we
No,
are for a
that's a,
while.
maybe.
I bet so. So we're coming out to yours is a 7.9, and mine is a 8.2, and it looks like it's an 8 when rounded appropriately, which is great. Highest scoring episode so far. And Chris, let's talk about its adaptation
I'm just
caliber.
I'm
Oh,
just
I'm
glad
sorry.
to, I'm just glad to see that you I'm just glad to see an episode that you rate higher than me. I was afraid a little bit that I was going to rate every episode higher than you, just because I just think I have generally have a higher opinion of the show than you. So I like seeing some of that change.
Agreed. This is it's like a palate cleanser for our other ratings right here. This is the sorbet of Chris and Shawn ratings. And we're so close. That's I always feel like that gives me validation to when we have very similar thought processes. But yeah, Chris, tell me what you think. I'll make you go on the adaptation first. I'll go second.
Yeah. Um, I think this was like, man. Anytime I think of adaptability, and my brain kind of separates out different story elements. But in general, I think this is a really great adaptation. So I'll give it positive in the sense, not in the sense that it's better, but in the sense of the work they did in adapting the material. Yeah, that's a thumbs up on that. Like they took like three different episodes and put it into this one episode, and I think it worked pretty seamlessly well. Like the story elements and the plot elements went very hand in hand together. Um, the jet fight was was good with even though we didn't get the Jet versus Aang fight, which is fine. That's fine. That's sure I would have loved it because I love that fight. But
That's
I get
that's
why.
issue level stuff right there.
Yeah. Um, what else would have been? What else was kind of different than those? Um,
I think we got more revelation to Jet Squad being kind of violent sooner when they make the like take out the trash comment.
oh
Um,
yeah,
right, they come out
that's
the
true. They
gate
straight up killed
darker.
those people.
Yeah, they come out the gate darker. That's also a good little fight scene for what it is. Kind of catches you off guard.
Yeah.
What else goes? What? Oh, is it this episode or next episode where Aang and Katara are in the mail system? There's a little bit of like a Indiana Jones mail system action sequence. That's this episode, right? Where they're
Uh,
like in one of the chutes. They jump off into
that's
the other chute.
that's yeah, that's Katara and Sokka.
Oh, Katara and Sokka, pardon me. That's this episode.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fun and different. Um, this is my long-winded way of saying I thought it was good too. I think this is a really good example of staying true to source material, but telling your own unique story and using the advantages of your medium. Right, we're live action medium, and we got a great live action experience. So this is an easy good for me in the adaptation call.
Yep.
Chris, final thoughts on episode 3, Omashu.
Uh, it was. You know what's interesting is that when I was watching this episode, probably because I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been paying. Well, also I've watched
But
this
you've seen it
this maybe my 5th
times,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, at least 4. Yeah. But I think when I was going over it now, maybe remember things that I liked about it more than what I was done watching it when I was multitasking doing something else.
I find an overarching theme. I find it's harder for me to separate these episodes because we didn't take them in episodically. We sat and we watched, a 6-hour movie, really, right? And so I find it harder to like separate these sometimes. But
Hmm.
anyway, hey, come back next week and we're going to talk about the dumbly titled Into the Dark, episode 4. And listen, that's not necessarily a reflection on the feelings on the episode, but Into the Dark is episode 4. We'll talk about that next week. I'll put the information down in the description, like always. If you can leave us likes, thumbs up, click bells, subscriptions, positive reviews, whatever form of interaction you're willing to engage with us. We appreciate that. And in the meantime, I'm Shawn. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. And we'll see you next time.
I'm cold.
I really thought you were going to start to